Hello, welcome to Excel 2016. In this series of lessons, we are going to look at intermediate levels of skills in Excel, starting with sorting. Before we do the sorting though, we are going to look at something very useful tool in Excel that a lot of people are not aware of. It is called Flash Fill. If you have an organization where all staff use the same email format, for example, let's say first name dot last name at google.com, for example, right? You can use the flash fill to fill out emails of staff if you have a long list to work with. Let me show you what I mean. In this example, we have for Treasure Notes Bookstore, we have first names and last names. Presumably, the email pattern is like this: Ivy dot last name, which is Mario, at tn for Treasure Notes dot ca, which is a Canadian domain. So if I just adjust this a little bit, remember how to do this, adjust the column. Let's see, there you go, that's better. Now I have this first name Ivy dot last name Mario at tn.ca. This is the format that is used in Treasure Notes Bookstore. So if I want to fill all these, usually I'll have to fill out the same thing. Now, if it's only for these 20 employees, that's not much of a problem. That can be done within minutes. However, let's say you have an organization that has hundreds or even thousands of employees. This becomes a big problem. It becomes a time consumption. So that's where flash fill becomes very important. So what is flash fill? Now I have created the first email. Excel knows the pattern. I need to create a second one for Excel to fully understand what I am doing here. So I'm going to go sam.tacho, which is the second name on the list, at tn.ca. Alright, so I'm going to enter and go to the third. As soon as I start typing Erin, you can see Excel recognizes the pattern and then Flash fills all the other names grayed out. All I have to do to activate this field is to click the enter button. There you go. How amazing is that? Like I said, for a 20 name list, this is not much of help, but if you are filling for 1,000 people in an organization, that becomes very difficult very quickly. There's another side to this. The other side to this is that if you have an email but you do not have first names and last name, and we recognize that this is the same pattern, first name and last name, and all you want to do is to sort of get only the names from this email, what you can do is do the reverse of what we did. Let's say you have the emails here. You go to the column next to the emails and type, for example, Ivy and last name Mario. Okay, enter, and the next name is Sam. As soon as I start typing that, it recognizes that I'm looking for the first name and last name, and it fills the whole screen for me. All I have to do is press the enter key to activate. So this is amazing. This is a serious time saver. Okay, so this is how flash fill works. Now we move on to the next lesson, which is sorting. Before I do that, I want to delete the first name and last name column because I just wanted to use it as an example. We have the first name and last name here, so I do not need to repeat this. So I'm going to right click, select, and delete. So now we have this, and then Okay, for sorting, normally what happens is that you need to select the column, the whole column that you want to sort. Let's say department list by alphabetical order. You want the first department with the first letter in the alphabetical to appear first. You have to select everything and then go to sorting. However, with newer version of Excel, you don't have to do that. All you have to do is to click on that column and go to, there are two places, there are two ways you can do this. You can go to the Home tab and move on to the right hand side of it and find the sort tool here. You can click on the drop down and sort from A to Z or from Z to A. But we are not going to use that. We're going to use the Data tab where we have the sort and fill command group. So it's the same, it's essentially the same thing, but instead of clicking on the drop down menu as you did on the Home tab, you actually have the sort tool right here individually by themselves right on the command group tab. So now to sort the department column, all we have to do is to click on the commands that we desire here. Let's say the A to Z. Let's click on that. So as you can see here, this column has been sorted by alphabetical order. We have accounting, customer service, research, and training. It's important to note as we do this sorting that there becomes changes in the whole data table. If you look at the numbers, you see that the numbers have sort of flipped. Now they are not from 1 to 20 anymore, because the changes in the department column also affect the changes in the numbers column. All right. However, this works very well if you have what is been known as a well-formed list. A well-formed list is a list that has data in close proximity without a column separating any part of it or a row separating any part of it. If I, for example, click here, create a new, maybe insert a new column here, for example, things will not work. If I try to make a change that affects all the data, that will not happen. It will only affect one of the data. Let me give you an example. What I just did here, for example, is to show you how to sort the department column. How about I try to sort something else? Let me sort the hours worked. Okay, from A to Z. All right, so I've done this, but what happens here is that none of these changes. Nothing here changed because this empty column is a gulf between the two sets of data on the screen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to undo that sort, undo. Okay, so undo the sort and also undo the inserted column. So let's try to do this sorting again and you watch what happens to the other section here. So I'm going to click on this and then go to sort. As you can see, these changes as well. All right, now you have accounting, research. It's not alphabetical as it was before because the whole data set are now working together because this is a well-formed list that does not have any empty column or row separating the data. The next thing I want to show you is how to do custom sorting. Right now we have this data set and one of the interesting columns here is the day of column. Let me explain the data set a little bit. We have a Treasure Notes Bookstore as the name of the organization, and we have numbers itemizing each of the rows. We have employee numbers. We have first name, last name, the area of work, whether they work in the west, north, east, and so on, the location, the specific location of their work, the date that the employees were hired, and their day off every week. Some people are off on Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Friday, and Wednesday, Thursday as well. They have their email here as well, and then we have their phone extension. So what we want to do here is to be able to know easily when employees are off. The way it is now, we have to sort of go through each of the names to find the date that the employees are not working or that they are off. As I've said before, with a 20 list, this might be easy to do relatively, but when you have a big data set where you have hundreds and thousands of data, then this becomes a bit of a challenge. So in any case, the easiest way to find out the group of people who are off on a specific date is to sort the day off column. So you know who's off on Mondays and who the set of people off on Mondays and the set of people off on Saturdays, and so on and so forth. The best way to find the group of employees that are off on a specific day is to find the day off of each of the employees, and you can do that by sorting the day off column here, so you know who's off on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on. All right, so let's do that. This is not difficult. This is a repetition of what we did before. So if I click on this column here and go to the data tab and find the sort button, so I want to sort from A to Z, lowest to highest, so I'm going to click on that, and here we have it. It has been sorted, but there is a big problem. The problem is that it is sorted alphabetically, but we all know that the days of the week is not alphabetically. The days of the week does not start by Friday. I mean, Friday does not come before Monday, for example. All right, and Monday, let's see here, Saturday does not come before Thursday or Tuesday. So this is wrong. This sorting is wrong. So what do? Then we call on the special sort button here, the one that has the Z to A and the A to Z sort here. This is the actual sort button. All right, so if I click on this, let's lift my click over there, and if I click on this sort button, I get this sort dialog box with these different column and associated values. Now what I'm looking for is that I'm trying to order the day off column, so I have to go to order. Here, the default is A to Z. So if I click on the drop down beside it, what else do I find? I find Z to A, but nothing here shows me how I'm going to order based on the day of the week, except by clicking on the custom list. Let's click on that and see what happens. By clicking on that, I have the custom list dialog box. Now there are different values here. There is the short form of day of the week, SUN, MON, that represents Sunday, Monday, and so on. And then you have the full day of the week spelled out, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and so on. If you're looking for the months, which we are not, you can also see them here. All right, so in our case, we're looking for the day of the week. Mind you, do not click on the short form day of the week here. For example, this one, the reason is because it won't work, because in our column we actually have the full spelling of the day of the week. So you have to click on the full day of the week list entry. So now if I OK that, and now I have as order as Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and so on. If I OK this, it gets reflected on my data set. Now I know that 3 people are off. 3 people are off on Sunday. 3 are off on Monday. 2 are off on Tuesday, and so on and so forth. If I come to this data, I quickly just want to know who's not working on Saturday. I just have to go down here to the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and see that Sam, Erin, Sophia, Peter, and Danny are not working on Saturday. So I can make my decision either as a manager or as a scheduler. That is how to custom sort your data. Before I go on to show you the next lesson, which is filter, let me do one more sorting. If we want to find out all the employees that work in the West End or in the South, we can also sort by area. So if I click on this area column, I can click on the sort button to sort based on alphabetical order. Now I know that this group of employees, Jenna, David, Ahmed, Erin, and Sophia, all works in the East, and these other sets work in the North, and so on. Alright, so sorting is a very powerful tool if you have a big data set. Now let's go to filtering, which is very, very interesting and useful, especially if you have a big data set. Let me do another example of sorting here. Let's say we have a department column here. I want to sort this in alphabetical order again, or maybe the other way around. Let's sort this in alphabetical order, but from highest to lowest. So we'll click on the down button, and now we have these sorting. Okay, to reverse that, we click on the next one. All right, I think by now you're pretty much familiar with the sorting tool. What I want to show you is that sometimes sorting is not enough. You need to be able to filter to have certain data highlighted on the screen. So the filter button can be found in two places. We have the filter button on the home tab, as we had the sort button. If I click on the drop down here, I should be able to find the filter button here. But again, we're going to use the data tab and go to this big filter button here. If I click on that, notice how each of the column heading now has a drop down icon, for each of them. So now, what are these used for? Let's click on one of them. If, for example, I only want to see employees that are full-time on the screen. I only want employees that are full-time on the screen. So I'm looking for, let's spread that a little bit. So I'm looking at the status, employee status column. So if I go to this drop-down menu here, you see that there are three selections here. One is the select all, which selects everything, which is what is by default happening right now. But if I only want full-time, I have to deselect the select all and select FT, which represents full-time. If I click OK, I will only have full-time displayed on the screen. I will only have employees with full-time status displayed on the screen. All right, maybe that's not enough. Maybe I also want among the full-time employees, I also want those who make $15 displayed. All right, so I'll go to the pay per hour column and select the drop down, and then deselect all again because that's the default, and then find $15 and click OK. So now what I have is only the full-time employees that make only $15. You see how this works? So this is how you can filter for certain categories of data or for certain type of data and hide the others that you don't need at the current moment. All right, the question now becomes, okay, all right, now we have done our filtering. It seems like we've lost a lot of data. Where did the rest go? Because if I look at the status bar here, I see that it says we have 8 out of 20 records found. What happened to the rest? There are two ways you can bring it back. You can reverse what you did before, for example, by clicking on that, clicking on the filter icon and then selecting everything, and then going next to click on the pay per hour icon and selecting everything. But the easiest way to do it is to go to the data tab, find the clear command here. What does it say? It says clear the filter and sort state for the current range of data. So it's going to clear the filter and the sort command that we previously gave. So let's do that. Click on this and then we have everything else back. All right, so now we have all our data back on screen, but we still have the filter drop down icon here. So in order to remove that, all we have to do is to click on the filter command here, which is still highlighted, and then every thing will be the way it was before. All right, I hope this was helpful. Take time to go over this again. Remember we did sorting by sorting the first sheet here as we please, by sorting the department. We also did a flash fill. The next we did a custom sorting with the day of the week, and then we went to the filtering sheet and decided to filter for full-time and then also filter for the hours of work. So play with this as you wish and then join us on the other side. Welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we are going to look at tables. In fact, we are going to create a table and I'm going to show you all the things that you can do with a table. For some of you, you might be thinking, well, don't we already have a table? Is Excel not intuitively a table? I mean, it has headings and it has rows and columns. Isn't that what a table is? Yes and no. You're right. In some sense, this looks like a table, but Excel does not necessarily regard it as a table. If you want Excel to sit as a table so that you can apply all the functionalities of Excel table, then you have to tell Excel this is a table. And the way to do that is actually quite simple. What you have to do is to select the data by clicking on it and dragging to make sure that you capture where the information is. Now you have to go to the Insert tab and find the table icon, the table command. So let's give that a click. It comes up with the Create a Table dialog box. Here it captures where your data is located, and then right here it asks if the table has headers. In our case, we do have headers: number, status, department, first and last name, and so on is what is being asked of here when it's asking if you have a header. Yes, we do. So in that case, we are going to click OK to indicate that we do have a header. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Now the magic happens. Now you've seen that we have created our very first table. The good thing about it is that there's so much you can do here. First, notice the dedicated table tools tab here where we have design. You can actually change the specific table style of this table. Like, let's just hover on each of these ones and then see what it does. Okay, this is good. Kind of like this. I tend to use this a lot. We keep going and going, and this and this. If you're not satisfied with any of these, then you can click on the drop down here, and then you can find more options down here. But for the sake of this class, let's choose this blue table style medium tool. Okay, what else can you find here? Notice how I clicked out of the table and then the table tool is gone. In order for me to get it back, I have to click on the table again, and then it is back right here. Okay, now that I'm here, by clicking on it, these tools that I was looking at before came back. The other thing I want to talk about here to continue with the tools is the fact that you can remove the filter button. What is that? Right here, you see the filter button that we talked about before. Each of these columns does have a filter button. By now, we all know what you can do with the filter button. You can, for example, filter for only full-time here by selecting just deselect and select full-time, and then you have that. You see now all the part-time are gone. All we have now is full-time. We can go back and select all to bring back our part-time. That's just an example of how to do that. Just a reminder, because I know we've done this before. All right, so in any case, these are the filter buttons. If you don't want them, if you don't want to see them here, if you have no use for them, all you have to do is to uncheck here. Uncheck the filter button and it's gone. You want them back? Click on it again. The same with the other tools around here. You can remove the header row completely by unchecking it and then checking it to bring it back. The total row, for example, if you have that, you can bring that in. You can take that away. The branded rows are these differentials in terms of coloration of the rows or column, if as the case may be. In this case, the rows. So we can unbrand this by removing the branded rows, and then it will just look like a blank normal Excel rows and columns. Want to bring it back? We click on that. We want to bring back the first column. We can highlight the first column. We can unhighlight it. Want to highlight the last column? We can do that. We want to include the columns as branded. Click. Now the columns are branded. But this doesn't make sense for this kind of table. We're going to remove this. The branded rows make more sense. Okay, so what about the external table data? Here is much of exporting the data to other applications such as Visio or SharePoint. We are not going to do that here, but that is what this is used for. Insert slicer, we're going to talk about this a little bit more later. Summarize with pivot table is also something we're going to talk about later. But we're going to talk about removing duplicates here. At the moment, we don't have duplicates. To make that happen, I'm going to just copy some data. Right click, copy and paste. And now we have some duplicate data. What we can do here is for example, if this was an error, we can go to click on the table again to bring back the design tools. We can click remove duplicates. Now it gives us this removing duplicate dialog box, and it's asking us where is the duplicate. We can look at everything and just click select all, okay, and wherever there is duplicate will be removed. Or we can be very specific. Let's for now select leave it at default and select everything and click OK. 3 duplicate values found are removed. this is exactly what we're looking for. The three rows that we added was removed. Okay, what if we're looking for specifics? Let's say right now we can say, for example, let's look at it here. Let's add one more here. Just going to click on this row. Select this row right here. Copy and paste. And then now we have to, I'm going to change the last name of Danny here to maybe Sam. Okay, so the only thing that is duplicated here now is the employee number. So in order to remove duplicate, let's go back in here and I click on duplicate. It's going to ask me where I want to remove duplicate, where the duplicate is, and I'm going to look for a unique data, for example, which is the employee number. Unselect everything and then select the employee number, and then two duplicates values are found and removed. Okay, all right, so that's how to remove duplicate. The next thing I want to show you is once you're done with all these and you are ready to remove the table that you inserted, you can do that by clicking on convert to range. If I click on this, it's going to ask me, do you want to convert the table to a normal range? Yes. And this is what we get. So it is just not a table. So even if I click inside, you won't see that table design tools anymore because it is a normal table now. All right. I want you to play with this a little bit and then come back and we are going to talk about subtotals. See you on the other side. Okay, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at subtotals. In order to find out command, you go to the data tab. If you look on the right hand side, you see the command for subtotal. However, before we do that, we have to do something that we have done before. We have to sort the data. The subtotal function will not work properly with a data that is not properly organized. So we are going to select this data and go to the sort tool under the data tab and click on that. And I'm sure you remember this sort dialog box that we saw in previous videos. All right, now on that column, sort by, we are going to click genre, okay, because we are first sorting by genre, and then we're going to add another level. We are going to sort by sub-genre. So first we're going to sort A to Z, fiction and non-fiction, so fiction comes up first, and then after that we're going to sort the sub-genre, and each of these subgenre will be sorted based on the genre. I'll just show you. You see what I mean. Click on that. So here we have it. So we have the fiction genre, and under the fiction genre we have the horror subgenre. We have the mystery, romance, science fiction. Under the non-fiction general genre, we have academic textbooks, history, mystery, and self-help, as well as travel guides. Okay, so you may be wondering why we have mystery as part of non-fiction. That's probably an error. So how about we just call this history? Okay, all right. So, and here we have the titles of the specific books or titles that were being sold, and this is the sales price, and this is the sales margin. This is how much the store owner is going to make for each of the sales. Okay, and this is the quantity of items that is being sold. All right, so now this data has been properly organized, it's been sorted. So now we can actually go and use the subtotal command by clicking on it. So what is happening here? Excel is actually asking us to fill out this dialog box, this subtotal dialog box. So at each change in the genre, for example, from fiction to non-fiction, Excel will use the function, the sum function, to sum the sales margin. Okay? And then if there are subtotals that were previously imputed, it's going to replace it. And it's also going to include the summary below. Okay, so you see this as we click OK. So let's go ahead and click OK. There you go. So this is what happens here. As Excel dictates a change in this column, in the genre column, fiction, it adds a total for fiction, and that is under the sales margin, we have $116. And then for the non-fiction, sums it to $267. It also added a bonus of giving us a grand total, which we did not ask for, but it's good. It's nice to have, of the sum of the total of the fiction and the non-fiction. So we have $383. Okay, so this is just a snapshot. To actually see the full data, you have to go on the left-hand side and click on these numbers. Number 1 shows the grand total that we just explained, both fiction and non-fiction. Number 2 shows the separate totaling of the fiction and non-fiction, and as well as the grand total. And then number 3 returns us back to the data. This is how to use the subtotal command. All right, I'll let you play with this a little bit, and then I will ask that you meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome back, guys. In this lesson, we're going to look at charts. This is probably one of my favorite commands in Excel because it's easy to use charts to quickly analyze data, no matter how large the data is. So let's get to it. To create a chart, we select the data. And then if you look at the bottom right hand side, this is one way of creating it. If you click on the quick analysis tool that is showed up, or you click on Ctrl J, these dialog box will come up. We are looking for charts, so we click on charts, and here by hovering you can see the different representation of the charts, right? And the way to know what to do will depend on the kind of data that you want to represent with the chart. If you don't see what you're looking for, you can click on the more charts to see more here, and you find click on all charts, and then you'll be able to check all the different charts that are available. If you're looking for something else, maybe lines, pie, bar, all that kind of diagrammatic representation, you can click on that here. Let's say pie, for example, right? Bar. So you can see the different things here. But let's cancel this, and then we're going to go back to quick analysis and click on chart and select the first one. Okay, so now we have our chart. However, it looks like there is an error in terms of the way the chart is organized, elements of the chart is organized. These here that says the names, these bars that says names, is supposed to have the month. In order to make that switch, let's just do that before anything else. We are going to go to the chart tools. Each time you select the chart box, you see the chart tools will be highlighted. And then you can click on the switch row / column. Click on that, and now you see that the month now represents the different bars. So here it's not easy for us to see that, for example, in the second month, that Meta is the #1 salesperson there, and he is quickly followed by Tacho. All right, so that's just a brief way of showing you how to analyze the data. Okay, so what else can we do here? We can also change the chart styles by hovering. Okay, I don't want to click. Just hover and see what comes up. Okay, there you go. Or click on this. I kind of like this a little bit, but let's stick with the default. That's one thing that you can do. The other thing that you can do is to actually change the chart type by clicking on this, and this brings back the dialog box that I showed you earlier, where you can change the different kind of chart representation that you want to see here. Let's go back, and you can play with this and see how this works. On the right hand side of the chart, you see these different tools. The first one is the chart element. Here, if you click on it, you can exclude or include any particular element. For example, if you want the data table to be part of it, you click on the data table, select the data table, and then you can actually see the data table here as part of this. I kind of like this a little bit. If you want to remove the title, for example, you can, let's see here, chart title. Sorry, I'm not seeing very clearly. You can click on this. If you want to remove the title, you can deselect the chart title, and that will be gone. What else can we play with here? If you want to remove the grid lines, you can unselect that to remove the grid lines. If you want to remove the legend, you can remove the legend. Okay, again, play with this a little bit and see how that works for you. Okay, I'm going to click out of there, select it again to bring back the tools. And the second tool here is the chart size. This is also the same thing that we saw above here under the chart tools. You can select whatever you want to select here. If I just hover, you can see that it's giving me a different style of the chart. Okay, and the last thing we can do here is the chart filters. If we click on that, you can see that all the categories and series, the names in this case, are selected. Let's say, for example, I do not want Mario to be part of this chart. I can unselect that and apply, and Mario will be gone. There's no more Mario here. Okay, so to bring him back, I can check it again and apply, and he is back. If, for example, again, I do not want month 4, the 4th month, to be part of the analysis, I can uncheck the 4th month and apply, and I will only have month 1 to 3. All right, so let's bring that back again and then apply. Then I have that. Okay, so what else can we do here? We can, let's click on the chart table, the chart tools, I mean. We can also go to the page layout and change the colors of the chart. If I hover, you see as I hover and move down, the color of the chart is changing. Okay, you can select anything you want here. All right, so let's click out of that. You can also change the theme. If I click this, I can change the theme of the chart, kind of like this. This is nice, but is duplicating the names on the screen. Okay, all right, they all are. So you can play with this as much as you like and figure out what works for you. Okay, let's get out of there. All right, this is charting in a nutshell. The other thing I want to show you other than the chart is, for example, how you can show how each of the staff are doing from month to month. Now we'll compare them with each other. But now, how about we compare them based on how they do from month 1, month 2, month 3, and month 4. This is called trending data, right? How is the sales for Mario changing for each of the months? To do that, we're going to use a simple tool let's go back to insert, and we're going to find the line, the spark lines, and click on the line command, sparkline command, and it's going to ask us which data we're looking for. So the data range, now we're looking under Mario, so we're going to select month 1 to 4, and it's going to be in cell F5. I'm going to click OK, and there you have it. Okay, so what we're saying that at the beginning of the month, Mario was doing okay at 12,336, and then in the second month he fell down to 9,000 plus, and in the third month it went up a little bit from the first month to around 13,000 plus, but in the fourth month it shot up to 16,000. So by looking at this, I can easily see the trend, but this is still not very clear. I can make this a little bit more clearer by clicking on the spark line color here and changing the color, let's say to green, for example. I can also change a lot of things here. Maybe the marker, I haven't added a marker, so let's add a marker. These are the markers. So just to show each of the points, this first one here is month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4. I can show the last. If I don't want, I can only show the last point. I can also always show the first point. I can only show the high point. I can only show the low point. If there are negative points, I can only show that, but that won't be represented here. Okay, so let's leave the markers on, and we can also change the style of the design by clicking on any of these tools, for example. Okay, all right, so this is what this is about. The last thing I want to show you here is that you can autofill for all the orders by just dragging down, and there you have that. So here you can easily see who is doing what in terms of sale. Tacho, for example, sales has went up a little bit in the second month, but went back down as it was in the first month. And Bryce started okay, but went down, but has sort of recovered in the fourth month. So that is how to read this. So I want you to play around with this a little bit and see how it works. Before you do that, the last thing we want to do is to print this chart. In order to print this, it's actually quite easy. We select the chart, make sure you select it, and go to File, Print. And here you have it. You can either print to PDF if that's what you're looking for, or you can actually print into paper, and that will be that. Okay, so play with this a little bit, have fun with this, and then meet us on the other side. Hello, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at importing data from the web and from other sources. In most cases in Excel, we create the data that we use. Whether you're creating a spreadsheet of students and their grades, or creating a spreadsheet of employees and their employee number and how much you pay them. But the point is that often we create our own data. But there are instances where you have to import data from other sources. And one of those sources is importing data from the web. That's what I'm going to show you how to do in this lesson. Okay, let's get to it. First, click on the specific cell where you want the data to be installed. And then you go to the Data tab and click on From the Web, import data from a web page. Okay, and the next thing is to enter the URL of the web page. Let's go to the site. I'm trying to enter information from this website, which is a currency exchange website. So I'm looking to import this particular table. Okay, so I will copy the URL and then minimize this and go back to this dialog box here, enter, and then click OK. Okay, finally we have data pulled from the web. In this page here, you can navigate to any area of the web that has information you're looking for. There are two views here to the right. There's the table view, which I will talk about in a second, and there is the web view. The web view actually has the information that I showed you previously on the web page, but we are only interested in these major currencies, and so they will be represented in the table view in one of these subsisting documents. So if I click on that, that's not the one, that's not the table. The second one to see, no. Table 0, no. Table 2, there you go. This is what we are looking for. Okay, let's just see what's in table 3. Table 3 is the other longer table. At the moment, we are not interested in that, so we're going to go back to table 2. And then, instead of clicking load here, it's better to click the drop-down menu and click load to. This way, you can specify exactly where you want to load your information to. Okay, so this is the tab that I'm looking for, the dialog box that I'm looking for. Here, by default, if I click load, it would have gone straight to a new worksheet. That's often the recommended, but in this case, I just want to insert the data inside this particular worksheet that we're working on. So I'm going to click existing worksheet. There are other choices here that you can show your table in, but let's go with existing worksheet, and the cell is A3, which is selected here. That is going to be, so I'm going to click OK to continue, and there you go. So now we have our data pulled from the web. So now we have the currency rates for each of the various countries. Now the next thing to do is to actually use this rate to convert these amounts into Canadian dollar equivalent. Okay, so to do that is easy. We enter the equal sign and then select the amount, the cell where you want to where that will contain the amount that you want to convert, and then multiply that by this is euro. So what is the rate of euro to Canadian? Euro to Canadian here is cell G5. Okay, so enter, and then you have the conversion. So 1,000 euro is equivalent to 1,375 Canadian dollars. So let's do that for the pounds. So again, we enter the equal sign. We click on the cell that contains the amount, and then we click the multiplication sign, and then we click on the rate, the pounds rate for Canadian exchange, Canadian dollar exchange, and that's in G6. Again, we'll press the enter key. We're going to do that for the US dollar as well. Again, we click on the cell containing the amount, and then we enter the multiplication sign, and then for the US dollar is 1.26 something, enter, and then the last one is the Japanese yen. Same process. Click on the cell with the amount, multiplication, and then the Japanese yen is right here, G8, and then we enter. So that's how to calculate this. The beauty of this is that when you change the cell containing the amount, let's say you decide to exchange 800 euro to Canadian dollar, you just have to change that there, and then the equivalent amount will be displayed on the cell containing the conversion. You can do that for Great Britain as well. Let's say 750 or 75. USD 590, and Japanese yen 5. So you can see that this is working. All right, so this is the whole This is the whole point of this. The other important thing to note here is that because this is a live data, so to speak, because it's pulled from the web, if changes are made on the website, that will also reflect here when you refresh by going to the data tab and clicking on refresh. You are able to refresh this particular data because it's connected to the website. Okay, so that is what we have been able to do here. All right, so the next thing I want to quickly show you is how to import data from, I'm going to quickly delete some of these and delete. All right, so it's how to import data from sources, from other sources. Let's say from sources within the computer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to place a cursor on where I want the data to be pulled into, and I'm going to click on the data tab and go to the left hand side where it says get data, the command that says get data, and I'm going to click on the drop down, and then there are many options here. There's workbook, test, and so on. You also have, you can pull data from databases, you can pull data from online services such as Facebook, SharePoint, but for now we're going to pull data from within our workbook, from within the previous workbook stored in this computer. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to locate that information, which is somewhere in my computer. Let's click on that, Excel 2016, and the file is right here. Okay, so again, I have this navigation button, and I'm going to click on that, and this is the information that is contained in the file that I want to pull. I can do the same thing by clicking on the drop down beside the load and click load to. It's going to ask me where I want to load it, and I'm going to click on existing worksheet, and the cell is selected right here. If I click OK, my data will be pulled in. That is how to pull data from sources within your computer. You can play with how to pull data from all the other sources using the same technique and methods and procedures that we've used here. All right, I want you to play with this a little bit, and then meet me on the other side. Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, we are going to look at pivot tables. Pivot tables are used to analyze and arrange data. In this particular data, we have data collected over 2 years. We have the month, the year, and the genre of books sold. And we have the sales staff, the area, and then the total units sold in US dollar, as well as the total units sold in numbers per month. So let's dive into it. To get to the pivot table, you go to the Insert tab and go to the left hand side to the extreme left, and you see pivot table. There's another command there, recommended pivot tables, that can be used as well, but for the moment, or for this lesson, we're going to use the pivot tables command here under the tables command group in the Insert tab. So let's click on pivot tables. Let's cancel this a little bit. Before you click on the pivot tables, make sure your cursor is within the text. Otherwise, it is not going to work. Let me give you an example. Or otherwise, you may have to select the text yourself. It's just easier for you to have your cursor within the text. Let's say I have my cursor outside of the text. I'm going to click on pivot tables, and this is the dialog box that comes up. As you can see, it's asking me the range that I want to select. I can do that. It's a lot of data, but the easier way to do this is to cancel this, click within the data set and then click on pivot tables. Now when I look here, it's already selected the range of data that it wants to use, or that I want to use. So Excel is smart enough, as soon as you click on the data itself, for it to recognize and select the range of data that you want to use. The next question is, do you want to place the pivot table in existing worksheet, or in this particular worksheet that we're working on, or in a new worksheet? It is always recommended to place the pivot table in a new worksheet. So we're going to go ahead and do that and click OK. Okay, this is a very strange window in Excel. It's strange in the sense that it does not look like anything else in Excel. You see this here, it says pivot table 1. To build a report, choose fields from the pivot table field list. So which field is it talking about? That will be on this side. So let me expand this a little bit so we can see, and then I'm going to also increase this so we can see a little bit. On the right hand side, you have two particular sections. You have the pivot field section, which contains the column headers that we have in the data. Here we have month, year, genre, sales area, and so on. If you go to the pivot table data, you see that we have month, year, genre, sales area, and so on. Okay, so let's go back to the sheet. Okay, so we're back here. So now this first section is where you select the different data points and then impute them on the bottom section, which is this quadrant of filters, columns, values, and rows. For the pivot table to work, the values quadrant must contain data, and then one of the rows and column quadrants must also consist of data, must contain data. The filters does not have to, but it helps to be able to select different data points if this is selected. So let me show you what I mean. In this example, let's go back to the table. We have the year of sales. We have 2020 to 2021. Within those years, we have month from January to December, and each month we have total sales of items sold in US dollars. Now, what is the amount sold in each month of each year? Let's answer that. We can do that by looking at this data, but obviously, as you can see, this is a lot of information. This is why the pivot table is required. So what is the total amount sold each month for each year in a snapshot? So that is what we're going to pivot. So we're going to go back to the pivot table sheet, and then in the sales, in the values quadrant, we're going to put in the total sales. And to do that, we just click and drag and place the total sales there. And as you can see, it's reflected here. So this is the total sales. Now, for the row section, we are going to impute year. And now, what we have now, we have 2021. The sum total sales is 584,487. And for 2021, that was for 2020. For 2021, we have 593,496 with the grand total also stipulated here. So it's easy just for us to just by dragging these two data points into this quadrant, we can easily tell how much our grand total is, how much we sold in 2020, and how much we sold in 2021. All right, so now what else can we do here? How about we break it down further? How about we drag the month to the rows quadrant. Can we do that? Oh yes, we can. We can have within each quadrant more than one data point. Now for 2020, as you can see on the left hand side, we not only have the total for the year, we also have the total for each of the month from January to December for 2020 and for 2021. Okay, so now how about we know exactly who sold what in each of the month? How do we do that? We can bring in the sales. That's where we can bring in the sales staff. All right, so just a quick aside there. If I click outside of the data point, my pivot table will disappear. To bring it back, I just have to click on the data and it goes again. Click out, it goes away. Click on it and it comes back. All right. So I was saying that we need to know how much each of the staff sold per month for both year. So for both 2020 and 2021. So we're going to drag the sales staff to the column quadrant. My mouse is playing a trick on me. So we're going to drag the sales staff to the column quadrant, and here we go. Now we have all the sales people represented by how much they are selling each month, or they sold each month on the screen. Okay, so this is how to create a pivot table for monthly sales. So we can call it, right now it says sheet 1. We can rename, right click rename, and call it pivot table or pivot book sales. Okay, so this is, here we go. This is what we have now. As you can see, it makes it a lot easier to be able, this is the same data that we have here in the pivot table, but you can see it's a lot of information here, and the pivot book sales just makes it easier for us to quickly look at what is going on and tell who is doing what. For example, in December 2020, Brett, which is the first salesperson here, sold 2,231, but in December 2021 he sold 6,352. So you can be able to compare the data for each salesperson month, year after year, or month by month, and you can also compare the data between the staff. For example, in January, you can tell how much Brett sold, how much Danny sold, how much Dave sold in one snapshot, and then you can look at how much and what the grand total of sales is on the right hand side and also on the bottom side for both years. All right, so now that we have seen this, how about we try something else? We're going to remove the data points that we have here on the screen. How do we do that? It's simple. We just uncheck the points here, uncheck that, uncheck and uncheck, and our screen is clean again. The other thing that I want to do is to perhaps show you how one other way that we can use this data point, that we can make comparison of this data point. And let's see, let's look at the yearly sales, maybe back to rows, and then look at how much was sold in each area. Put that in the values, and as you can see, that does not seem to work well because I put the wrong value field. So let me try putting a column, and there you have it. Okay, so now we have Northwest east, north, and west per year. But you can see there is no data point here. The reason there is no data point here is because there is no value. The value quadrant is not filled. The value quadrant is the meat of pivot. There has to be something here. All right. So what we're going to do is to drag in the unit sold in the values quadrant. There you go. So now we have our data point correctly. In 2020, in the east, we sold 120,735. You can see the number for the north and for the west. And for 2021, you can see the numbers as well. All right, so that is how to use the pivot table. I'm going to remove these data points and go back to the previous data points that we used before, which was year in the rows column, month in the rows column, and total sales in the values column, wrong column, total sales in the values column, and then sales staff in the columns quadrant. Okay, so now we are going to do something else. We are going to create a pivot chart, but before we do that, I want you to play with this a little bit and then meet me on the other side. Okay, welcome back. We previously were talking about pivot tables, and we did promise that in the next lesson we're going to look at pivot charts. Pivot charts is another way of analyzing data, of making it simple for us to be able to see data and how they compare to each other. To get to pivot charts, make sure you're clicking on the table, and you'll see pivot tables selected or highlighted here. There are two sections of the pivot tables. There's the analyze and there is the design. Under the design, you find something like the pivot table styles, which if you hover over it, you see the different styles changing. And there are other things that you can do. For example, rows header, removing the rows header and bringing it back, column headers and bringing it back. You can also include bounded rows if you want, bring it back. It's just, if you remember correctly, when we dealt with charts in previous videos, this is exactly the same thing that we were able to do. However, in this lesson, we're going to go to the analyze section, where if we go on the right hand side, we'll see pivot charts. So if we click on that, it is going to give us this insert chart dialog box. This is again similar to what we saw before when we worked on chart in previous videos. The only difference, I suppose, is that the data here directly respond to what is happening within the chart. As we go along, you see what I mean. Okay, so now we are going to select a specific chart. There are different ones. If I hover, if I click on it, I should be able to show you the different examples. Again, the chart you select is going to depend on the kind of data that you're trying to analyze. It's not only column charts that you can select, you can also select line charts. Again, it depends on what kind of data you have. Pie charts, you can select that, the different pie charts, and see what's going on with the data. All right, so let's go back to column charts, and we're going to select the first one, which is the default. We're going to click OK. Here we go. So now we have, I'm going to minimize the pivot chart fit a little bit so I can bring the chart table here, maybe make it a little bit bigger. Okay, all right, so here we have the chart. You can see it is very busy. Just make it a little bit bigger. Okay, all right, so One thing you notice as you look at the chart, other than these lines that represent the different data points, you can see around here is the 2020 data points, and for each of the month is represented by the column legend represents the names of the sales staff for each of the month. Breath is blue, Danny, and so on have their own colors. That is the same with 2021. The other thing you notice is that we have filter points. We have filter points on the screen. If, for example, we only want to look at one particular staff member and not all of them at the same time, we can uncheck the select all here, and then maybe, for example, click on breath and click OK. And the data we have will only be for breath on the screen. You can see how the breath data is on the screen. But also notice how changes are happening on the data itself. So this is what I meant earlier, that as you make changes to the chart, it's also reflected in your data points on the screen. Okay, so let's go back and bring back all the other guys. Okay, this comes back to us. And how about the month? We can decide to only work with maybe 1 month at a time. If I unselect this and then maybe look at the month of January, okay, here we can see now that in January 2020, this is how each of the staff, sales staff did. Brett, for example, did very well in January 2020 as opposed to January 2021. And Danny did about the same, but a little bit better in 2020, and so on and so forth. If I remove this as well, unselect and bring everyone else back, we can also make adjustment to the year. We can look at only one particular year instead of both. Unselect that and let's say 2020. Okay, and this is what we have. Instead of comparative data point for 2020 and 2021, we only have the data point for 2020. Okay, so I'm going to remove that and select all again. So this is how to play with the data points here. Okay. Another thing you need to know here is notice we also have the chart element. If I click on the plus sign, which is the chart element, I can remove settings or include settings on the chart. I can remove the axis, for example, or I can bring it back. Okay, so I can bring it back. I can remove the grid lines. I can bring it back. That is how to use the chart element here. Let me click on the plus sign to remove that. I can also change the chart styles here. All right. Let's go down here and look at this, for example, which is my favorite. We can use this instead, or we can use any other style. Okay. So that is how to use these pivot charts. Okay, the other tool to use to break down or analyze this data is the pivot slicer, and you can get to that by going to the analyze button here and clicking on insert slicer. As you can see, the different data points are represented on the insert slicer: the month, the year, the genre, sales staff, and so on. Let's try the month. Mark that and click OK. And then we see that we have the different months represented here. So let's say we want to see the data for January. If we click on that, and as you can see, the sales for each of the sales staff for the month of January in 2020 and 2021 is shown on the pivot chart. How about let's say February? The same thing happens. So with the slicer, we can actually make comparison by looking at the data points from different angles. All right. So to delete the slicer, select it and then click delete. You can bring it back by going to clicking on the data, analyze, insert slicer, and going back. Let's try the year. Click on that. OK, and you can select individual year to analyze. Let's click on 2020. And now what we have on the screen is only the sales for each salesperson in the year 2020. And just looking at this here, the snapshot, you can see that Matt does a lot better than everyone else in the year 2020. How about 2021? You can see it's a contest between let's say Sam and Leah. So that is how to use the insert slicer and pivot chart in general. I hope this has been helpful. Play with this a little bit. Play with the different data points, and meet me on the other side. Okay, welcome back to Excel. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to insert comments into specific cell. Now, why would you want to do that? There are many reasons for you to want to do that. First, you might see this use this to serve as a reminder for what to do later. Sort of like a note to yourself, right? So let's say, for example, you know that Sophia is going to have their hourly pay raised to, let's say, $17 in the next month, but you want to make sure that you remember that. So you click on that, and you go to comment cell. So go to the review tab and add new, and click on new comment, and then you can say reminder, increase Sophia rate to $17 on May 1st, 2022. Okay, so this will serve as a sort of a reminder to you. So if you come over here, you can see these little tiny comment indicators. Before I show you how to make it a lot more visible, let's take another example. Let's say you're collaborating with someone, you're working with someone, or you're working with other people on a company project, and you want to leave messages for them. Let's say, for example, you want your boss to know that the telephone number for Samsung has changed from 251. The telephone extension for Samsung has changed from 251 to something else, but you don't have the authority to do that, or you don't have the capacity to do that. So you can leave a message for who does by clicking on selecting the particular cell, clicking on new comment, and then you can leave a comment that says, please note that this extension has changed to 200. Okay, so, and if you click out of there, that message or comment will be there. All right, so now I was saying that the indicators look very small, although I do like the fact that it's red, but still sometimes you may not be able to easily tell that it's a comment there if you are not someone who's familiar with Excel. So if you want to show all comments, to see all the comments, maybe this workbook is forwarded to you and they say please review the comments and make adjustments. You can click on the show all comments feature under the review tab, and you'll see all the comments here, and then you can make your adjustment as required. or you can edit the text. But essentially, you can make changes to what is required here. For example, you can change this now to $16. Okay, and that will be reflected. And this one, let's say this is May 1st, you can change this to $17. And the phone number you can change to 200. Okay, so now how do you remove the comment? Okay, to remove the comment, you click on the cell and then you can click delete, and the comment is gone. Click on the cell, click delete, the comment is gone. Click on the cell here and click delete, and the comment will be gone. All right, so that's how to use the comment feature in Excel for personal use as well as for collaboration. Hello, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about data validation. What is data validation? Data validation is the tool that you use in Excel to restrict the limits of the data that is entered onto Excel. As you know, Excel allows you to enter anything and everything onto Excel, numbers or tests, anything can be entered onto Excel. However, there comes a time when you want to make sure that the number or the data that is entered onto specific Excel cell is restricted to what you want. For example, this Treasure Notes finance company has a pool of customers who have with different credit limits, and who were brought in by different sales rep, and you also want to show the current date as well as the phone number. So let's start with credit limit. Let's set the credit limit for each of the customers. For those of you who do not understand what a credit limit is, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you have a credit card and your bank tells you, or the credit company tells you, that your limit is $1,000. So that means that you cannot spend more than $1,000. So in your record, there will be something in your record that says that your credit limit is $1,000, so that when other people are looking at your record, they can tell you what your limit is. If you call them, it says assistant will look at it and say, hey, okay, I'm looking at your record. Your record here is $1,000. So how do we set that credit limit? We use data validation command. So let's do that for Orlando Flynn. Click on that. Click on select the cell 67 for Orlando Flynn, and then go to the data tab and click on data validation. All right, now we have to fill in this data dialog box. So what do we want to allow? We want to allow whole number, and it is going to be between minimum $1 and maximum $1,000. So what that means is that you can spend between $1 and $1,000. Okay, so let's okay that. Now you can see that nothing happens here. But if I try to type in $1,000 and $1, use the smallest number, see what happens. It says this value doesn't match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. So I'm going to retry again and enter 1,000, and then I get my 1,000 and less number that I can enter. I think this is probably a bug. It shouldn't show the negative sign, but it does for any number that is less than the maximum. If I put in 900, it's going to do the same thing. Okay, but if I put in, let's say $2,000, which is above the credit limit, it is going to reject it. Okay, so let's leave it right now at 1,000, and we're going to do the same thing for Brett Current. Brett Current is it's been a long time customer, and he has a very good credit, so we're going to give him $2,000. So let's go back to data validation, click on data validation, settings, and the value is whole number, and it's between minimum of $1 and $2,000. Bread can spend up to $2,000 in their credit. So let's click OK. Before we do that, let me show you something else that you can do here. You can actually impute a message. Let's say we can call this credit limit, and you can say whatever you want here. You can say limit 2,000, or limit of 2,000. Okay, something like that. Error alert. So if this person makes a mistake or tries to enter what is not allowed, what do you want? You can say maybe something like error, and maybe something like enter valid amount, something like that, right? And then you click OK. So right away, once I click on the cell, you see where it says credit limit of 2,000, right? If I try to enter, let's say 2,500, let's see what happens. It says enter valid amount. All right, so that is how to create a data validation for number that is restricted up to a point. So you can fill out let's cancel this. You can fill out the rest. Let me just put 2,000 there, and that works. All right, so you can fill out the rest for the sake of time, and meet me on the other side. Okay, so we are still on data validation. The next we're going to do is to restrict the type of data in terms of names that is entered onto Excel. It could be anything. It could be a list of anything. But the point is that you want to restrict to a list. You want people to select from a list. It could be a grocery list that you're asking people to buy, but you want them to select from a specific kind of groceries. It could be name of students. It could be anything. But in our case, we want to restrict the sales rep. We want to restrict the entry in this data to this particular sales assistant: Andy Main, Richard Riggs, Mimi Hauser, and Donald James. Okay, so how do we do this? This is where we're going to select all the cells to make it easier, because this is going to apply to all of the cells, unlike the credit limit where each individual might have different limits for their credit. But for the sales rep, it's either one of these people that is the sales assistant for any of these customers. So we can select all of them to make life a lot easier for us. Okay, so let's click on data validation. Data validation, and we're looking at the settings. Here we're going to find list. So we're looking for a list, and the questioner is, where is the list of people, items, or whatever you want people to select from? The list is here under sales assistant. So we're just going to click on the source and then select these different lists, and OK. So now for each of the cells here, you notice this drop down here. So what's in this drop down? If we click on the drop down, we see that the names of the sales assistant are all here. So we can select each and any one. How about if we try to type in a different name? Let's say Alex. Tells us, okay, let's cancel that. I think I made a mistake. Okay, there you go. So try again, Alex. And it tells us that this value does not match the data validation restrictions defined for this cell. This we have seen before. Okay, so we can only, let's make this a little bit wider. So we can only select from these lists. Okay, so once again, we selected all the cells, and we went to go back here, data validation, and then we selected allow list, and then the source we selected it says assistant here, and then we clicked OK. All right, I hope that was clear enough. The next one is date. In this case, what we're trying to do is to set the current date, so that each day that you open this document will use the current date that is being set by the computer. As I'm doing this, today is the 18th of April 2022. So if we open this document today, if we create the date today, it's going to show that the date today is 18th of April 2022. If we open this document tomorrow, it's going to be 19th of April, and so on and so forth. Okay, so how do we do that? We cannot do that by using the data validation command here. Although there's something called date here, the problem is that this is only for entry in range of dates. Let's say starting for sometime. This is useful too, but not for the purpose here. So for the purpose here, we're going to use a formula. So we're going to type in, as you know, with the formula, you start with the equal sign, and then we're going to type in today, because we want the current date all the time, and we're going to open parentheses and close parentheses, and then click enter, and there you have it. So today's date is April 18th 2022. So fortunately for us, we don't have to do the same for all the other for all the other customers, because data validation supports autofill. So we're going to do autofill. Remember how to do this from previous video. If you don't, please go back to our previous video and then look at how to do this. So I'm going to click on this drop down and then select down and see what happens. All the cells now have April 18, 2022. Okay, so all right, so the last thing we want to do here is the phone numbers. As for the phone numbers, we are going to make sure that people are restricted to how many numbers they can enter onto each of these cells. Okay, and also create an error alert for the entry as well if someone enters a number that is not, or a length of number that is not allowed. So let's click on the cell and go to data tab and select data validation, and here we're going to select test length, and it is going to be between 7 and 13, which is the length of number for the Canadian number, and we're going to click before we click OK. So let's enter input message. We can say enter phone number, or just phone number, and here we can say enter phone number. You can type anything you want here, and in the error alert you can type in error, for example, enter, or you can say invalid number, something like that, and then we can click OK. All right, so now here, once I click on it, it tells me what to enter here. Phone number, enter phone number. So let's try to enter a phone number, 416 and 111-2222. That should work. Okay, and that is because we have how many numbers on the screen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I believe. How about if we increase this to 13? It should still work. There you go. How about if we add one more number? Let's say 0 this time. There you go. So now the number here is more than 13 now, so it's 14. That is why it's telling us invalid number. The number that you enter has to correspond with the maximum length of phone number that you can enter here. Okay, the good thing about this also is that you can also autofill. Okay, maybe we can delete now. Delete. Okay, so if we enter any other number here now, let's say 647 222 2222. All right, that will work. It's within the parameters. How about if we enter 647 222 2222? Let's see. Invalid. All right, invalid phone number. All right, so let's cancel that. There you go. So please play with the rest of this and create data validation for phone number and for all the other steps that we've taken today. Thank you very much for staying to the end of this tutorial. In the next lesson, we're going to be looking at linking of data. See you in the next lesson. Okay, welcome back to Excel 2016. In this lesson, as I promised, we are going to look at linking of data, either from one cell to another cell, or from one worksheet to another, or from one workbook to another. This is actually quite easy, so I'm going to show you very quickly. If you know the cell, once you identify the cell where you're going to link to, so you click on that cell. Let's say, for example, I'm trying to link from cell A1 to cell G7. So I'm going to click on cell G7, enter the equal sign, and then click on cell A1. Once I click enter, the text in cell A1 will be referenced in cell G7. If I change cell A1 to maybe instead of Excel is amazing, I can just say learning is amazing, and then it changes here as well. So that's how to link a reference and another cell. So the next thing is to link from another worksheet, and the process is the same. Click on equals sign, and then click on the sheet. Let's say, for example, data validation. Let's say that's what we want to link to, and specifically we want to link to cell H7 that contains the first sales assistant here. So if we click on that, it's important that you don't navigate out of this worksheet. I learned that the hard way. So stay on this worksheet, and all you have to do next is click enter. But before that, take a look at the formula bar here. See what it says. It says equal sign data validation in quotes, and that is because we are in the data validation sheet, and then H7. So to effect the referencing or the linking, I'm going to click enter, and when I come here, you see that this cell here, cell G11, now has Andy main. If I go to data validation sheet and then maybe change this name to Andy Amanda, and enter, and then go back to linking data, you see that it has also changed here. So I'm going to go back here and undo this and go back to my here, and then goes back to Andy main. So the last thing I want to show you is how to link data from another workbook. Note that before you can do this, you have to have that workbook open, and once you do that, the process is actually quite similar. If you click on the equal sign and then you navigate to the other workbook, in our case it's a new workbook, Excel 2016 tutorial file 1 is what I call it. If you click on a specific cell that you want to link, for example this cell here, and then you click OK, you see that, or you click enter, you see that this cell here is now referencing cell C4, which currently contains the item books. If I decide to change that to say, let's say tiles, I don't know why I'm putting that, but just for the sake of the example, and I click enter or click out of there, you see that this now has ties. So let's undo that, and we have books back. That is how to link data from cell to cell, or from sheet to sheet, and from workbook to workbook. All right, I'll see you in the next lesson. Hello, welcome to Excel 2016. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to use the conditional formatting feature. We're going to use this data, this global city temperatures data, to show you how to use this feature. Let's say, for example, you are a world traveler. You go from place to place, and but you also want to know what the temperature is for each of the cities that you plan to visit in the next few months, so that at least you can be prepared for them. So in order to do that, you can create an Excel spreadsheet, or to tell you when a particular city is above certain threshold of temperature. Let's say, for example, Toronto. We're going to highlight Toronto, and then we're going to go to the Home tab and find Conditional Formatting, and click on the drop down. Here, there are different things that you can do here, different options. Let's start at the bottom, which is not useful for us, but I just want to show you how that works. I won't click, I just want to hover so you can see the kind of changes that is happening. So, icon sets. So if I hover on the directionals, you will see that the data is changing on the screen. The higher data from 57 to 71 seems to be going up, and the sort of middle range data, 47, 49, 48, going sideways, and the lower set of data, 33 to 34, also 24 to 34, seem to be going down. So you can find a use for that, but I just wanted to know that that is there. We're not using it. It's not appropriate for what we're about to do. So these are the different icons. I'm just going to place my cursor on this. You can play with this a little bit later more. There are also shapes that you can use, which is also not very appropriate for what we're working on at the moment. And there are indicators. This might be a little bit useful, but it's not what we're looking for. But I just want to put my cursor here so you can see. You can also see that there is a check mark from 57 degrees to 71 if you're looking for hot temperature. That can be something that you can use. And the lower temperatures has the X mark, telling you that that is probably a no-go area for now. Okay, so that is for the icon sets. What about the color scales? This is a little bit more useful for us. We can, if we place our cursor here, you see that the colors have changed in the different cells. 71 seems to be green, but looking at temperature, that might be counterintuitive. So let's look at the next one there, which is yellow, so which is red, yellow, green, and color scale. What this means is that red is the highest. 71 is the highest, so which is red, and then that followed by different shades of red, and it goes down to yellow, and to light green, and to a very strong green background. So okay, so let's click on that for now. I think I like that. So this tells you the different temperatures. And for Lagos, let's try something else. If we go back to the Home tab and go to Conditional Formatting, we can also use data bars. We can, if we are just again going to hover, I won't click, just so you see what happens. If we hover here, you can see that the blue data bar has the higher temperatures as longer. So 94% for 94 degrees, for example, is a lot longer than 87, and so on and so forth. So we can use, there are different colors that we can use. This is the green, this is the red. We also have solid colors that you can use that gives you a very quick indication of the difference in temperature. Okay, so maybe I'm going to use the let's see here, let's use the light blue data bar for that. Okay, so let's look at the others. Let's say Milan. We are going to try something else, conditional formatting. And how about we look at the top slash bottom rows. Let's say we want to highlight the top 10%. We can do that. Format cells that rank in the top 10. All right, so how do we want to format that? We want it to have the light red field with dark red text. All right, so click OK, and you can see that there. For Cape Town, we can use something different. Let's say the bottom 10%, and we can say we want a different color here. We want a light red fill for the bottom 10%. Okay. Okay. And for New York, we want something different. We want let's say anything that is above average to be to have a yellow fill with dark yellow text, and we can do that as well. So this is how to use conditional formatting. We can look at this, and with these colors and these indicators, we can tell a lot by the data and make our traveling or any other decision based on our interpretation and analysis of the data. I hope this has been very helpful. So I want you to play with this a little bit. Again, to get to the conditional formatting, you go to the Home tab and you click on conditional formatting. You are able to see all these different formatting options, and then you can play with all these, find out what works for you depending on the data that you are working on. All right, see you on the other side.